Hello and welcome back to... Uh-oh. Probably not a good sign. Never mind. That's completely unrelated. I just opened up one of my computers and it's like, I have like 15,000 notifications being like, don't disconnect this thing before so-and-so. And welcome back to Chaos Child. I should sync up stuff. It's been a while. Here, let me just click Rivers and Deserts, play. Sorry. I am sorry about everything. So this was posted on March 13th, 2020. That's actually over a year. That is a little bit over a year. And that includes editing time too. That is little over a year from when I'm recording this. And I don't know when this will go up because I have other stuff that might go up first. I don't know, all that sort of stuff. I want to apologize that I've taken such a long break from this. As it's probably obvious from the previous episodes, I sort of ran into a situation where I burned myself out so fucking bad on all this YouTube stuff. It just, over the years, it started as a hobby. It always was a hobby. I've never made a cent off any of the YouTube stuff. And it just became an obligation. And all that sort of stuff. And I mentioned before, like, I don't like VNs as much as I used to. And honestly, that still is true to some extent. That very much is true to a lot of extents, to be honest. But I do still want to continue them. I just want to take them at a different pace. And it actually sort of goes back to the problem I ended up having just with the channel. I felt like I always was just... There was a point where, like, in my life, like when I started the channel in college, I had time to just play these games. And then at a point, it just, years of it, I burned out, basically. For all intents and purposes, I burned out on the process, and everything felt like an obligation. If you don't know me, if you haven't heard me ever talk about it before, I have a very binging sort of personality. I tend to get really into something and then sort of burn myself out on it. That's not unusual for me, just as a thing. So what I ended up figuring, especially since this is a hobby and it's all that sort of stuff, is that I wanted to restructure how I approach the channel to a way that would actually make sense for me doing it long term. And what that ended up, the form that ended up taking was that I just fucking shut myself off from it for a while, let the burnout sort of go away, basically, give myself some time to reset, focus on the other hobbies I've picked up over the years, and then come back to it. And I picked up a game, just a new, fresh game that I really wanted to play, and I played it on the channel all the way through. Xenoblade Chronicles 3. It was a long game that took me a while to get through, but I was able to establish sort of a pace to how I did this, where basically what it amounts to is I record it, big chunks of it. So like for now, I'm going to record up to basically the end of the common round, and then I'm going to edit it and put it up, and whenever that is, that's when it is. And I think that's a lot better than me trying to get episodes out. I'm not going to force myself. There's going to be some feeling of obligation, like, I probably should record that. I probably should do that stuff. I should probably do that even if I'm not completely feeling like it, and that'll motivate me somewhat to do things eventually, right? But I do feel as though this is much more sustainable. And once I got through Xenoblade Chronicles 3, what I decided to do after that was jump into one new game and one other game that I put off, which was Great Ace Attorney, which was the old one, and Persona 5 Strikers. And now that I'm wrapping up Great Ace Attorney as another visual novel, I wanted to jump back into this. And I just want to explain myself. This is like 4 minutes into the video, and this is going to be a long enough video that it's probably worth doing it. I just want you to understand precisely where I am. Visual novels definitely are not, like, the long visual novels are definitely not just my thing quite as much as they used to be. Like I said, I'm a very binging sort of personality, where I will get into something, and then it'll taper off. when you have like a 70 to 100 hour visual novel, in an era where I have so much more responsibility, just things that I need to do and other hobbies that I have picked up over the years, it doesn't work as well for me. But that's an asterisk on it, in that it means that I'm just not going to be playing visual novels like exclusively. I sort of want to make sure that I'm only playing one at a time, so I'm not burning myself out on the concept. And that's sort of where my approach ultimately lies for this. How I ultimately want to approach it. And as you can see, I have this beautiful, beautiful I have this beautiful, beautiful screen up here that basically amounts to, hey, I pulled up my last video from a year ago because I don't remember fucking shit about what was happening. I know, I have a vague memory of what was happening. If heaven was real, that was probably where Huey was going. But I knew without a doubt that I would be going to hell, so I'd probably never see her again. Yeah. Also seems mad. Yeah. That's what happens. That's what happened last time. And people made some comments about oh boy, things are gonna escalate 1 year ago. Okay, you were right, but you were also sort of wrong for other reasons. Yeah, things are gonna escalate. Yeah, you were right, but you're also sort of wrong. I'm sorry. I do feel bad about it, but I really do have to do things at my own pace. And I need to be able to approach this whole situation in a way that makes sense for me, right? It has to be something sustainable. And Chaos Child got the short end of the stick in terms of just being something I was playing in the middle of at the time this all happened. And I'm sorry for those that have been looking forward to more episodes. My intention has always been to get back to it, but just at a pace that made sense for me and how I wanted to progress the channel from here on out. So, hey, I'm doing it now, so I still feel bad about it. But it's also a tough choice, because that obligation of why I feel bad is the same reason I got burned out, because I was making stuff and just trying to make things work in this feeling of like, okay, I got to get stuff out at the space, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then it was just sort of like I got to the point where I was on the other end of the binge after some like years of doing it very regularly. And then I was just at that point where I was like just trying to fight through that burnout, act like it's not there. Oh no, it's just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So what I want to do now first is I want to just sort of review my last video to some extent. And try to get myself back up to speed on at least what's happening, even if I don't remember all the lore stuff. Because I'm going to be honest, I don't remember a lot of the lore stuff. That in particular, it just has a minutia to the details that really goes away from you after a year or so. But yeah, I'm going to jump into this, and I might make some comments on the way through it. Yeah, delusion. So the lore is basically this idea of, wasn't it something like that, where basically you like changed your perception into reality? It was like real booting or something. That's what I think that was called, something like that. And psychics were basically, it wasn't so much they were psychics like explicitly, and what did they call? So much that I've sort of lost over the time. And again, I'm sorry. Okay. But there was like it's always just like a big old risk, right? Like illusions are more likely. So it seems better for me to throw out the concept that they might be targeting psychics, because it's a ton easier for them to resonate with that ability. It might be good to throw out that concept. Oh, right. That was my whole thing. Like, you turn your delusions into reality, but you only have so much ability to influence the world. So you're trying to create this sort of like network of psychics through all the like the weird face things, and you're trying to activate psychics, and you're trying to make this whole like, oh yeah, I remember that was like a cool concept, and I have no idea if they do that, but that was like a really cool concept, like the idea of you have like control over this, but you have a limited ability to use it. But what if you got like a network and you just like change the entire city into what you want, and then just farther and farther and farther and farther, all that sort of stuff. That would be really cool. And I think I had a general idea that like real booting or whatever it was, I'm almost definitely going to use the wrong term here. Or whatever it was, The idea that because you had that access to it, it also meant that you were a lot more susceptible to the specific effects of it, because you were whatever you were doing allowed you to connect to another person more easily. I think. But yeah. Away and as if it was being drawn in by the sound. Suddenly there's a sharp metallic clings at my feet. Oh god. No, God, no. Why am I skipping forward and it hasn't gotten through that yet? Why? Oh my goodness, this fucking game. Oh yeah, there was that whole thing where it's like he was deluded into thinking there's actually like some weird relationship between this Senri. Oh my god. Oh. This is not the best game for me to like take a year hiatus from. But he was being deluded into that. It's weird. Like some of the more recent stuff, I have stronger memories of some of like the stuff that's like super relevant to it. The dying part that makes it like that is the nature of it. Yeah, I mean, even now, just watching through this or skipping through it, and it's like just a little bits of like, I don't really want to watch this. Yeah, no, this really fucks with my head more than it really needs to. Like, sort of, yeah, fuck you, game. Okay, I'm not up to speed, but I have a general idea of where we are much better. And I think I've had I think I've had a little bit more than 4 days to grieve at the very least. So, yeah, let's get back into it then. And hello and welcome back to me recording this properly again. Okay, let's jump into it. When did I actually? 414. I didn't have a more recent. Let me double check something real quick. Oh, okay. So, something I've learned over the course of looking at my save files is that I actually recorded more of this before I went on my burnout break, like a half an hour worth. Okay, well, FYI, we're just gonna jump back to that, and you can see my thoughts. That was like apparently a month after the last time I had recorded the stuff last year. So technically, it actually hasn't been a year since I last recorded. Apparently, because that was in April of last year. So, hi, this is Future Echo. I'm going to send you back to past Echo because I did double check and I still have all the recording and audio files from that recording session. So I'm going to throw you back there and we'll get back here because I think that past Echo probably has a better idea of what was going on during that time frame than this current Echo does. So I'll talk to you in a little bit. And hello, and welcome back to Chaos Child. Last time, the game was not merciful. The game was not merciful at all. So, fuck man, let's just jump back into it. I don't even know what else to say with regards to it. So, fuck. 4 days later. The autopsy, the police interviews, all that came to an end and Yui's body was sent for cremation. Yeah, that probably is for the best in itself. I still have a bit of that cough. It's not nearly as bad as it has been. So I'll be voicing more, but yeah. So it became thin, pure white smoke and soared up to the heavens. Kirsu and I stood between the trees at the funeral home and watched it rise. I have no idea. As a person who doesn't believe in any of that, it's hard for me to find the silver lining in that element. And I don't mean I don't believe in filters, by the way. I'd say something that didn't matter, and Kurisu would only half listen. We'd been doing that for a while now. I was probably in the room with the family, where the family waited for the cremation to finish, holding Yuto in his strong arms the whole time. Yuki, Sarika, Rimura, and Kazuki were probably watching. But they couldn't do anything.
不思議ね。
Oh.
あんなに悲しくて涙が止まらなかったのに、今はもう平気なの。お葬式の費用のこととか、お墓をどうしようとか、そんなこと普通に考えてる。
That's a hard one to judge. Is she distracting herself, or is she spent on tears?
私ってきっと薄情なんだわ。
No. Even as she spoke, she looked thin and frail from her suffering, but there was a light, like gray flame, in her eyes. I'd never seen her look like that before.
いや、クリス以外にそういうのを仕切れる人がいないからだよ。父さんも気が抜けたみたいになっちゃってるし。
そうかな。
そうだよ。
Besides, I'd already heard the muffled sobbing that came from Cruz's room late at night. She feel a need to put on a brave face, or is she actually, become dulled in her emotions? Are you saying that she's still doing that in between all this, or... After that, I'd moved back to Abadorm from the RV. Kurusu, Yuto, Yuki, and Dad. All of them were shocked and saddened by Yui's death. If I were to leave them, too... I couldn't bear the idea of a lonely Abadorm. Without me or Yui. And when I was alone, I found myself remembering Yui, and I feel like I was going to go crazy. So I wanted to be with someone I could share my sorrows with. I was about to learn that this was what the family I tried to abandon was for, but for now, my head was full of thoughts of finding the person who'd done this to Yui.
タクル。葬儀が終わったら少し休むといいわ。あなたひどい顔してる。
それはお互い様だ。お前だってちゃんと休んでないだろ。
だって夜眠れないんだもの。恐ろしい夢ばかり見てしまって、何回も飛び起きて。ね。
Kirsten tightened her hands into small fists.
一晩だけでいいから、今度タクルの部屋で寝ちゃダメかな。
え？
In a very wholesome way, I assume, yes. Of course not. I wanted to refuse instantly, but she looked so tired and kept telling me that she couldn't sleep by herself. I had no choice but to silently nod. When nothing was left of Yui but tiny white fragments, we used chopsticks to move her to the urn. Only after she lost most of her weight and fit inside that tiny urn did she finally attain a normal death. And that was one weight off my shoulders. I didn't want her staying in that horrible state forever. Yuto was shaking the whole time he moved his sister's bones into the urn. But his eyes were empty, looking at nothing, and he wasn't screaming or crying. While Yui's classmates and teachers sobbed, he did his work mechanically, with shaking hands. When it was done, he turned his empty eyes once more on what was left of his sister.
Yuto, 僕が必ず本当の犯人を見つけ出してやるからな。約束する。
But he said nothing back. The funeral ended without incident. Yuki and Dad took Yuto back home by taxi. Kurusu and I said our goodbyes to Serika, Arimura, and Kazuki, then headed for home. We were walking slowly.
ゆうと大丈夫かな。
クルスや父さんもいるし、何より山添がずっとそばについてるから。
The loss of Yuta's sister had brought back his PTSD, to the point where he was just as bad as he'd been after the earthquake. He'd mostly lost the ability to speak. He'd become extremely afraid of the dark, and sometimes he would go into convulsions. He'd been given special permission to leave the house to attend Yui's funeral, but normally he wasn't even allowed to sleep in his room. Dad had decided to put him up in a room in the Alba Clinic.
不思議な巡り合わせだな。
This is Yamazoe Yuki, who was doing everything she could to take care of him. It seemed like the reason we'd save her and brought her to Alba Dorm was so that she, Yui's old friend, could take care of him in his hour of need. Given her history, there is an irony to that. When I told her that, Kurusu looked sad, and it's just a coincidence, was all she said.
あのね、タクル。そのウキちゃんのことだけど。よかったらでいいんだけどね。そろそろ名前で呼んであげてくれないかな。
I felt that pain in the back of my chest again. Around 6 months ago, I switched from calling her Nono to Kurusu. Looking back, the reason was so stupid that just thinking about it made me mad. A part of me was stubborn, and part of me felt just a little too embarrassed, so I missed a chance to switch back. I knew that sometimes it made Kurusu sad.
僕は別に構わないけど、山添はそれでいいのか？
実はウキちゃんがね、そう言ってたの。みんなに名前で呼んでもらって嬉しいって。なんだか、うちの家族になれたみたいだって。
Did she know? I feel like we haven't actually heard much from her since she came to the dorm.
でも、ウキちゃんには家族みたいじゃなくて、本当の家族になってほしいなって、そう思うから。ね。
Kurusu smiled, probably for the first time today. That's fair.
わかった。山添じゃなくて、ウキな。了解。
ありがとう。彼女にも言っておくわ。タクルのこと名前で呼んでいいって。
ああ。あと、それだったらさ。
Then should I start calling you No-No again? Just as I was about to ask.
宮代くん、クルスさん？
はい？
We suddenly heard a voice and turned around. Back to thinking about it. The why. You know who we haven't seen lately? Our good old friend who got controlled in some capacity. Feels like if you could control someone to that extent, like what preparations do they need for that? What like setup and whatnot did they actually need to target in order to make that even like a feasible thing that they could do? If they had just the ability to control people like that, then that would be really powerful. There's some limitation, and the only way I could even start to think to speculate would be on the potential limitations of the real booting stuff. He must have felt responsible for what happened because there was no sign of his usual vitality. He mostly stared at the ground.
すまない。葬儀に出ようと思ってたんだが、間に合わなかったみたいだね。
そんな、気を使わなくていいですよ。お仕事。
今日は 病院での検査に思ったより時間がかかってしまって。
検査？
伊藤君のだよ。
Yeah, okay, what the fuck's... Like, is there anything medically indicative of what's happening outside of, the physical trauma from, fighting and the freaking blood pouring out his eyes? The silence that developed between Kurisu and I shattered in an instant.
意識が戻ったんですか？
合わせてください。お願いします。
But Shinjo shook his head.
いや、依然、昏睡状態のままだ。
そうですか。
Honestly, out of everyone here, like, outside of her dying, which obviously is the worst results of anyone involved, Ito's probably... Yeah, I guess it mildly depends on how much he remembers, but that's the sort of thing that you take to your fucking grave in terms of trauma, I think. Even if it's not you doing it, it's still you doing it, right? It's hard to imagine someone not blaming themselves. It would be very difficult to get over the mental barrier of not blaming yourself for that, I think.
でも、脳の検査結果は予想通りだったよ。
肥大化が？
ああ、大脳新皮質が異常に大きくなっている。久野里さんの見立てだと、これまでに見たどんな患者よりひどいそうだ。
So was he a psychic then? Is it possible he was a psychic and we just didn't know? Trying to remember if there's anything that we definitively did to rule out whether someone was a psychic or not. Oh, whether people could see the shit, right? That was it. Fuck. Here's the thing, if he wasn't purposely... He could have lied, but right now we have no reason to believe he was actually lying, right? About that, because even this indicates something was fucking with him, rather than him actually being, say, betraying us.
それだけ長期間にわたって、しかも強力な思考誘導を受けていたんだろうと。
じゃあ、伊藤は無実ということになりますよね。
You could also say that the real booting into psychics would be easier, and that's why the other ones are targets, and this was just done because... And this isn't done regularly because just into normal people would be much more difficult because they don't have the real booting connection as significant, so maybe there's not as much precedent, blah blah blah. You could potentially say that, and that's why you don't see it very often, and potentially that's why it took so long for something like this to actually develop, maybe? But at the same time, if you're going to say that, then why wouldn't you just target Takaru if it's notably easier? Given that it's a matter of perceptions, right? I'm trying to think of how he was acting. Because he was acting like he knew her, but in the same vein, it feels like her knowing what's-her-face, I'm forgetting her, Kurusuzo's friend's name. We don't believe there's any reason for him to actually know her, right? But that sort of delusion feels inconsistent with the small things we've seen otherwise for people. Where, at the very beginning where we saw that person who was cutting the cheese, but really he was cutting his arm. That's a pretty significant delusion, but it has more to do with perception of the world around you, right? Rather than, a false memory. I guess if you, had it going for a long time, you could plant little things that made you think, oh yeah, because people do have bad memories. You could plant things in someone's perception to make them think that they did do that, they just forgot about it. It's okay, yeah, I guess that was true. I guess you could technically do that, but that would probably take a long time of setup, and then thinking back to that scene where he was freaking out, it did sort of seem more like it was an idea planted in his head that he could just be oh wait, no, that didn't happen, rather than something he had come to sincerely believe. I didn't want to think my best friend had killed Yui of his own free will. I wanted to believe that he was someone's puppet, like Kurisu had said.
君たちの言うように、 彼の後ろには誰かがいるはずだ。少なくとも俺はそう思う。
But there's a hesitation in his voice.
ただ実行犯が伊藤君であることに変わりはない。君たちや俺や久野里さんなら思考誘導がいかに強力なものか理解できるし、伊藤君には罪がないと言い切れるが、他の捜査員や検察、それに裁判所はそうはいかない。無論世間もだ。
Especially if they got a bunch of freaking pictures of it, and it's not like we can give out the story in a way that's can correct the public perception of it.
もちろんクルスさんの証言をもとに彼が洗脳のようなものを受けていたという線で捜査を進めて、とにかく不可解な点が多い上に裏付けすら取りようのないことばかりだ。全てが常識の範疇を超えている。
And even that, like, at what point, how does the law handle that? I especially don't know Japan. I don't really know the US either very well. In terms of culpability of, because like you have, I guess, would it like be considered like a mental illness in a sense at that point? In terms of just like the actual law dealing with that situation, you could say, oh, well, it's not really his fault or something, but that's ultimately your interpretation opinion on it, while the law would probably have some other interpretation of it. Obviously, there's probably not something written in for mind control, or there might be brainwashing stuff, considering that's, while not necessarily Hollywood-style brainwashing, there is real brainwashing type behavior that you would see in the world. Regardless of all that, I would hope that they don't even consider pressing charges until he's out of the coma, at least, and they can, question him.
かといってギガロマニアックスだの超能力だの、そんな話をするわけにもいかないだろう。
Shinjo bit the corner of his lip.
そのせいもあって今の捜査方針に疑問を抱き始めている連中が増えてきた。伊藤君に不利な証拠もいろいろと出てきてしまっていてね。
どういうことですか、それ。
例えばなくしたはずの君のスマホから伊藤君のスマホに脅迫まがいの無言電話があったろ。
That can't be good.
はい。
Wait, was that Ito? Yeah, it was on his phone. But how?
単純なトリックだった。彼のスマホに偽の着信と電話番号を表示するアプリがインストールしてあって、宮代くんの名前と電話番号が登録されていたよ。
So under that concept, we'd probably need to argue that he was... Best way to phrase it. You could probably argue that this has been going on for a while. If it's been happening, which would lead to the potential sincere belief that he thinks that sort of concept. Maybe. So that was it. Why didn't I realize that? I know there's a freeware app that could do that. I remember hearing about how you're supposed to use it to end conversations with people you didn't want to talk to, or get out of meetings.
あと彼のパソコンから妙なチャットの履歴が見つかってね。
チャット？
君たちエド・ルーカスって名前に聞き覚えはないか？
エド・ルーカス。
So that's the one. Spring should be expected. So we have seen that. It's very weird that they're revealing all this stuff to be him, yet they're also heavily suggesting it wasn't him, which,
誰です、それ。
Both Cruz and I look confused. Neither of us had heard that name before.
それじゃあアミーちゃんは
Amy, but okay.
あ、それなら、
都市伝説の
That was the character I'd snuck into AH Tokyo General Hospital to find when I was a kid.
いやそのアミーちゃんじゃない。伊藤君のパソコンを調べたらそういうハンドルネームの2人が頻繁にチャットを行っていたんだ。エド・ルーカスというのが伊藤君だ。チャットの内容は一連の殺人や宮代君を監視しているような内容ばかり。犯行動機として十分すぎるくらいのね。
そんな。
If I was a detective outside of this, it does feel like a natural conclusion to come to say that anything he said that seems to make him seem like he might have been controlled in some other capacity, anything like that seems like something he might have just said off the cusp in order to give himself a benefit of the doubt, like he intentionally set all this up and he tried to throw that in to give himself plausible deniability. Like, I could very, very easily imagine that conclusion being come to. And if someone came up and said, well, we think he was brainwashed, we think he was mind controlled, we think psychics are doing stuff, I think I would probably be... I could very reasonably see the argument that it's like, okay.
でもそのチャット相手を操作すれば真犯人の手がかりに
And honestly, at this point, I don't want to completely rule out that he may have been involved, like, intentionally. I think there's some element to it that's fucking with him. Maybe his perception, maybe something, that little thing about him talking about what's-her-face, which I'm still blanking on the name. Maybe that whole thing could have been connected to... that could have been way in the past. This could have been set up way earlier. And that's just been developing since then. But if that's the case, if they've been targeting Takaru for a long time, then... if they've been targeting Takaru for a long time, then why? It can't honestly be like the freaking hospital thing from when he was a kid. It couldn't be. Like, could someone really have that much of a grudge over a small child running away? And specifically against that small child versus the tons of other people involved in that whole experience. For presumably a girl who's dead, too. And we have no reason to believe she's not dead at the moment. But Shinjo balled his hand into fist.
もちろんサイバー犯罪対策課に調べさせたよ。その結果アミーちゃんは存在しなかった。
は？
どういうことですか？
アミーちゃんの正体も伊藤君だったんだ。彼は一人でチャットもどきをしていた。
Why would he leave massively incriminating evidence on his computer? Okay, so there's another element to it. If he's trying to give himself let's say the concept is he's trying to give himself an alibi by saying these, like, completely impossible things, right? About so-and-so. Why would you create incriminating evidence of yourself then? If you have the mentality... Like, I get if he had, like, a chat with someone that was, like, a chat he had to have in order to set things up and shit, but...
そんなバカな。
どうして？
これは久野里さんの説だが、伊藤君の心は長期にわたる思考誘導のせいですでに壊れていたんじゃないかと。だが法廷で思考誘導という能力の存在が認められない以上、非常にまずい証拠になる。犯人しか知り得ない情報が含まれているんだ。
A new rage was building up within me. Yeah, things don't quite come together. in either, like, direction of explanation. Whoever did that to Yui had also put Ito's mind under so much stress that it had shattered. So the reason to Shinjo, do you have an answer to this question? Is there evidence that he displayed a knowledge of Kurisu's old friend before it was brought up in any of the conversations and whatnot involving this whole story? Is there any evidence of that? Because I'm just thinking, like, we have no reason to believe he was aware of her. And I'm thinking, if you had him demonstrate that knowledge before then, you could probably pretty safely say that someone had planted that knowledge way back then, yeah? Kicked a small rock at my foot. The rock collided with a nearby wall and split in two.
新庄さん、このままだと伊藤はどうなるんですか？その、法律的に。
まだわからない。未成年とはいえ、事件が事件だけに。
でも、真犯人が逮捕されれば別ですよね。そうすれば伊藤の罪だって軽く。
ダメだ。君は自分の身を守ることだけ考えろ。犯人なら俺が探す。
Finding the killer or not finding the killer. If you find it's like, oh yeah, we found the psychic that did it, I'm not sure the evidence changes. I'm not sure people will start believing that element of it. Shinjo must have realized what I was trying to say because he cut me off.
犯人を探すって、一体どこをどう探すつもりなんですか？それに犯人が分かっても、気軽マニアックス相手に新庄さんに何がこれまで結局何もできてないじゃないですか。そんなだからユイや伊藤は。
This wasn't fair. I knew it wasn't fair, but I was so frustrated and angry I couldn't stop myself.
タクル。新庄さんは一生懸命やってくれてる。責めるのは違うわ。
I looked at Shinjo's face, then looked away. He had the same pained look on his face that we'd had a moment ago.
すみません。つい。
いや、君の言う通りだ。俺は君たちにどう謝罪していいのか、未だにわからない。けれど、頼むから、命を危険にさらすような真似はしないでくれ。特に宮代くん、11月4日に何かしようと考えているのなら。
What day is it now?
11月4日？
ニュージェネレーションの狂気。最後の事件の日ですよね。
Also,
となれば、その日に真犯人は必ず動く。
Also still why? Shinjo's expression became even more pained.
だから、宮代くん。ダメか。
He must have seen how strong my resolve was, because he turned towards Kurisu.
クルスさん。
はい。
どうやら俺から頼んでも無駄らしい。宮代くんがおかしなことをしないよう見張っててくれないか。俺はこれ以上犠牲者を出したくない。
Kurisu quietly nodded.
わかりました。11月4日が過ぎるまで、タクルには危険なことをさせないよう注意しておきます。
クルス。
Something seemed strange about what she said, so I turned to look. She already bowed to Shinjo and started walking towards the dorm. So, till the end of November 4th, make sure it doesn't do anything dangerous. That is actually an oddly specific statement. Yeah. Fictional, yeah. Oh my goodness. So law Tokyo passed banning depictions of sex between. Oh, that was like 5 or 6. Does anyone even remember? Oh, whatever. Better than well done for a chick that got burnt to death. Oh, that they're being fucking assholes. Oh my god, I'm gonna fucking. Of course, the internet's a bunch of fucking horny assholes.
負けんなよこいつら。
Okay, I think I'm going to stop for today there. Good thing, I'm starting to cough a bunch again. I hadn't actually tried to just, like, read out everything for something for a while. Say about half an hour is my limit. Good thing I'm planning to do, like, smaller recording sessions on this and whatnot. That's just been my MO for a while. Yeah. Fucking hell. Those freaking computer logs, they feel so very planted, especially if they're with himself. It's so they feel planted. But the other option is that he intended to do it, and it's not that unusual for people to have logs of them expressing the desire of what they want to do. When you have, like, basically mentally ill people that are pushed past a breaking point. Well, see y'all next time. Continue this and put them all in one video, and I'll see you then. Drive safely, everyone. And welcome back to Chaos Child, where everything is in disarray because I forgot I recorded more. I, like, legitimately completely forgot about that. So let's just continue from here then. I guess I don't know what else to say other than screw you fucking assholes, which is directed towards me specifically. It looks like that half hour basically covered the fallout of it and how everything seems set up to make it look like the story that they were trying to give him was, like, legitimate. I just very quickly skimmed it, so my apologies. Yeah, I don't have any backlog. It's been a while. But, yeah, screw you assholes. I had to stop myself from smashing the newspaper club's computer monitor. This might have been me reading online. I came very close to depriving Kazuki of her means of playing ESO 2. Sarika, Kazuki, and Arimura were watching me in shock from a corner of the room.
何が非実在性少女だ。
Yui died so goddamn horribly. So what the fuck are all you random assholes doing, ganging up on her with what might as well be a second rape? Fuck all of you.
タク？大丈夫？
Yeah, I think he's... Yeah, it's not difficult to figure out what's going on there. Sarika's worried voice brought me back to reality. My hands were red from when I'd slammed on the desk, and they stung. They might well swell up soon.
みんなごめん。
I glanced one last time at the @channel comments and closed the browser. Okay, yeah, that's what I was thinking it was.
だから今朝警告したんですよ。アットチャンネルはしばらく見ない方がいいって。
Yeah, it makes sense as a way to approach it. Yeah. Horrible people. People who treat it like we live in a world currently where there's, like, a lot of fascination with, like, true crime dramas and whatnot. Now imagine being actually, like, involved in one of those, and I've, like, you hear about that every once in a while, where it's, like, a relatively modern thing and it being drug up by these, like, these dramatizations of them that just make it look so it like twisted. It makes it look like it's specifically made to get eyes on it and entertain people, and it just sort of sweeps the memory of the people involved over under the rug. While maybe it can do it better, but a lot of those tend to be very those things, right?
いや、ネット上に何か情報がないか探してて、つい。
Yeah, for him, I imagine he's looking at a lot of things on the internet. I should never have looked at the nest of self-proclaimed right-siders. Oh, is this going to be the thing that changes him? They're nothing but idiots being cleverly manipulated by paid professionals. Oh, right, okay. So, this might actually just make him fall into it more heavily. Okay. Wait, right-siders... Oh, fuck. We're right-siders... Someone on the right side of digital information divide. Right side is necessary environment to make use of the information communication technology such as the internet allowing them to quickly find, share, and receive high quality information. Oh, that's not quite what I was thinking that it meant. Okay, never mind. Okay.
いや、それは以前の僕も同じだったのか。
I'd been one of them too. At least up until the revolving dead. But as I started to become part of the murders, I began to realize how irresponsible and insensitive the information disseminated on the internet was, and how awful the reality could really be. It was karma. I'd once been proud of my status as a right-sider, but now the whole thing felt like a punishment. Okay, so it was a good thing. I was trying to remember, was the right-sider name mocking because it was talking about the people he thought were bad? Okay, got it.
もう見ちゃったんなら言っときますけどね。伊藤先輩の個人情報も出ちゃってますよ。連続殺人犯かどうかって話になってます。
I mean... Fuck.
ほんの少し前は南沢千里のことで騒いでたくせに。
I stood and picked up the map we'd pulled off the wall. I put it back on the board.
どうするんです？
もう一度これまでの情報をチェックして見落としていることがないか調べてやる。そこに真犯人につながるヒントがあるかもしれない。
Oh, are we going to review the facts? Because that would be fantastic for me at the moment. Whoever did that to Yui, I wasn't letting them get away. I'd find them, and then I'd...
それならクルス先輩も呼んできましょうか。
いや、あいつは生徒会の仕事に専念するって言ってた。何でもいいから忙しく働いていたいって。そうしてないとユイのことを思い出してしまうからって。
そうですか。
For some reason, Arimura looks suspicious for a second. It would take a while for me to figure out what her expression meant. At the time, I didn't really think anything of it. Oh, I think I had speculation on that there was like some sort of traitor within our group. I still don't... Arimura just feels like too obvious of a one. Yeah, I mean, what do you mean suspicious? That's like... I would not have seen anything about her expression shown on screen or what she said that made me think she was acting suspiciously in any form. So I guess thank you, game, for pointing it out. But I don't really see... I guess I'm not able to see precisely like what's going on to the point that I can even think of a reason why you'd be suspicious. Because the two directions would be is like, oh, she's acting suspicious because she has ulterior motives, or oh, she's acting suspicious because like she doesn't quite feel the same damage as Kurusu and Takaru feel. So like she's acting suspicious because she's just sort of off and she's like caught off guard by the situation a bit.